Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another episode of Rippin' the Fence. In today's video we're going to be talking about the Daytona 500, the first race of the NASCAR season. But before we hop into the video, I just want to quickly remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it if you guys did that. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. We really do appreciate all of it for you guys. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me on the show as always, and it was quite a hectic weekend. We had two doubleheaders basically for Daytona weekend. We had the truck and the ARCA race Friday night, and then the Cup and Xfinity race on Monday night, President's Day. But anyways, Matthew, how are you doing before we go ahead and hop into things?
Well, I'm doing great because the race season is officially started. You remember what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said at the beginning of the 500? Finally! That's right. The regular season has officially begun. And I'm looking forward to every single weekend being race weekend again. Of course, had to prepare this weekend by listening to Pitbull's Daytona 500 edition album that just came out. Um, I can't play it on here, unfortunately, because copyright reasons. But yeah, it's been what an interesting weekend and hectic weekend and wet. So let's get right into all that.
Alright, so I'm going to start things off with Friday night, or actually, well, there was stuff Thursday night too. We had even Wednesday night, there's qualifying. So Wednesday night was qualifying, Thursday was the duels. The first duel was pretty clean, and then the second duel, there was a big crash in the second duel. Ryan Blaney had a pretty hard hit in there, so he had to go to a backup car along with a lot of other drivers. And then Friday night, that was the truck race. Nick Sanchez ended up winning that one, and that was a race, that's for sure. It was quite the wreck fest. A lot of carnage in that race, but Nick Sanchez gets his first career win, gets it at Daytona, so good for him. The Xfinity race was Monday night after the Cup race, and Austin Hill ended up getting the win there. That's actually three straight Daytona February races that he has won, which is quite an incredible feat. And Austin Hill has just become quite the super speedway racer in the Xfinity series. He's won 3 times at Daytona. He's won at Atlanta before. So Austin Hill really strong at those super speedway racetracks. He even got in a wreck early in the race, repaired damage, fought his way back to the front of the field. And just the way he's able to manipulate the draft and his experience, he's a threat to win every single one of those races. There was one thing: Riley Herbst was penalized for a restart violation, and I think I was at work, so I couldn't hear the audio, but I saw what was going on, and it looked like he launched before the car on his outside did, but I'm not 100% sure on why they called that penalty. There wasn't much explanation that I saw on social media after that, but Riley Herbst was penalized for that. Not quite sure if it was faulty or not, like a good call or a bad call, but just wanted to point that out, that was something that stood out during the Xfinity race. But now let's hop into the Cup race, which was on Monday, and the crowd was massive for a day late race. It was President's Day, so thankfully a lot of people probably had the day off, and they were still able to go back to the racetrack. The stands looked absolutely packed, even for a Monday race. So very glad that not all the fans, most of the fans were able to come back out. It's unfortunate for the fans that did have to leave, unfortunately, but the weather in Florida is always just so hit or miss. It's either pouring rain or bright sunshine. There's no in between. But it was pretty wet down there for a few days. The Rock, he was able to stay and give the commands. That was really cool that he was able to stay and able to do that. He was one of the several big names that was in Daytona for the weekend, so glad that he was able to hang around and give the command for the race. And they wrecked early in the Daytona 500 this year on lap 6. Brad Keselowski gave a bump into John Hunter Nemechek, and he spun down the track, collected Harrison Burton, who slid through the grass, came back up the track, collected Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, Kaz Grala, Austin Dillon, and Jimmy Johnson also involved. Jimmy Johnson has not had any luck really in these next gen races. Another tough break for Jimmy Johnson. The first stage went to Chase Elliott. A lot of the Chevy teammates were battling it out there at the end. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, a lot of other drivers. And right after that, one of the, I would arguably say the favorites, had an engine issue. Michael McDowell, he had an engine issue, and he was able to stay on the track for a while, but just could not keep pace. So tough break for Michael McDowell, the outside pole sitter for the Daytona 500. It was a Ford that won stage 2 in Mr. Ryan Blaney, and then at this point in the race, it looked like your usual super speedway racers were strong, like Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, several other drivers seemed like they could make their way up to the front. Kyle Busch, Matthew's driver, he was able to make it up to the front 2 or 3 times after being penalized for all kinds of different pit road penalties, and then they didn't get the tire on all the way, so he had to drive the car all the way under yellow around the track with a loose wheel that did not come off, thankfully. But Kyle Busch would just start at the back and go all the way to the front. He would rip it to the front. So all those drivers looked really good. And then in stage 3, there were some green flag pit stops. And after those cycled out, obviously, giant pack of cars, only one crash early in the race that only took out a couple drivers. The way they were pushing and shoving inside 10 laps to go, it was bound that something was going to happen. And then the big one struck with 8 laps to go, and it all went down because Alex Bowman gave William Byron a bump, a couple bumps actually, and Byron was not able to hang on to the car. He drifted to the left into Brad Keselowski, who got hooked right, coming up the track back into the field, collected all kinds of drivers, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Daniel Suarez, so many drivers I can't even name, but it was the big one, and it struck hard at Daytona with 8 laps to go. And obviously, looks like it might have been on Alex Bowman there. He gave William Byron a few bumps too hard, and Byron just lost control of his car, jerked him to the left, got into Keselowski, and set it off. But that would set up a restart late in the race, and William Byron was able to keep the lead. And then coming to the white flag, Ross Chastain tried to make a block on Austin Cindric, and he was not clear. Ended up spinning through the grass. Him and Cindric ended up coming back onto the racetrack just past the start-finish line, and NASCAR threw the caution because obviously if there's cars sliding back up the track on the front straightaway, you don't want them to, crash into anybody and cars be stopped on the front stretch. So NASCAR threw the caution. The race would be over. William Byron was in the lead, and he would win his first Daytona 500 on the 40th anniversary of Hendrick Motorsports' founding to the exact date, which is really cool. So very happy for William Byron and Hendrick Motorsports to kick off the season with a win in their 40th anniversary campaign. Let me go through the top 10 really quick. So we got Hendrick teammates William Byron, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Corey LaJoie, 4th. A great run for him. Always love seeing Corey LaJoie run well, especially at these super speedway tracks. Bubba Wallace, top 5 for him. AJ Allmendinger, 6th. Nemechek and Jones, 2 Legacy Motor Club cars, finished 7th and 8th. Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe, 2 Stewart Haas Racing cars, make their way into the top 10. So great runs for them. Kyle Busch, 12th after having a really strong car. So those are some of the top finishers from the race. As for the race itself, in my opinion, I feel like there's a split field on people's opinions on this race. There's some that are like, this race was really good, or this race wasn't that good. Like, there's no real in-between. I don't want to say the race wasn't good, because it was a good race. There just wasn't much action, in my opinion, because in the entire first and second stage, and even part of the third stage, it was just the guys driving around 30% throttle, saving fuel the whole race. And these races have come down to fuel strategy, and you want to run part throttle in the draft, so you want to stretch your fuel as long as you can, so you can have a short pit stop, so you can get to the end of the stage and try to minimize your time on pit road and leapfrog the cars ahead of you. So that's what they were really doing most of the race, in my opinion. I know there were some spurts where they got 3 wide, but in my opinion, it was mostly pace laps at 180 miles an hour for probably 60-70% of the race. But there were some flashes of good racing. I just wish that the drivers wouldn't focus on saving fuel and they would just race the whole time, even if they get single file for a little bit and then start dicing it back up again. I would much rather have seen them race it out. But Denny Hamlin was saying it's really hard to get that third lane going because the way the air is when you pull out, it's like a balloon. It just pushes your car backwards, and it's really hard to get that third lane going. But it was able to work at some points. Um, but yeah, that's really all I have to say about the race. Happy for William Byron to get that win for Hendrick Motorsports, like I said, to start off their season, the 40th anniversary campaign. Matthew, what are some of your thoughts that you have to say about the race, the Daytona 500?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to William Byron on winning the Daytona 500. Of course, I'm wearing my Liberty University Pit Crew shirt that I got at Hendrick Motorsports shop a couple months ago, actually. Um, I've always been a big fan of William Byron. I mean, I've followed him. I've been following his journey from over the years. Like I still remember when he was a truck series driver for Cowboys Motorsports, which he absolutely dominated this season. And then he went to Junior Motorsports, and in his rookie year won the championship, and then immediately stepped into the iconic number 24 car, in which Jeff Gordon made that number famous, iconic, with the Flames DuPont. Now William Byron and the Flames Exalta brings the number 24 back to victory lane in the Daytona 500. And that car is going to be sitting at Daytona, USA for the whole year now. And I mean, William Byron, I've always said this. I've always said this. He is a future superstar. And once again, he has proven that he will be a superstar one day. Um, I mean, this kid has so much talent. I mean, of course, he started his racing career started on a computer, which was basically which is basically a lot of these modern drivers come from nowadays is by iRacing or some sort of simulator. Um, like Anthony Alfredo, for example, Raja Caruth, and so many others. But this was an amazing victory for William Byron. Hendrick Motorsports played the strategy game real on point. Um, I know you were just talking about the fuel saving, which was I guess one of the couple complaints which NASCAR is looking into. I saw that earlier today, but Hendrick Motorsports played that strategy well. They saved enough fuel to the point that they spent the less amount of time during those green flag pit stops. And it seems like at the end of the stages and at the end of the race, here's the 400 cars at the front, battling for the stage win or and the win. Um, they played that strategy real well. All four of them did, but um, I know there was some controversy at the end with did Alex Bowman get robbed? And I mean, Fox. I mean, I will say about Fox, they weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. But the only thing is, they did not explain the finish real well or show any good pictures real well. NASCAR had to do it themselves, and the pictures showed that William Byron was the the car in front at the caution. So, congratulations to William Byron, though. Amazing start to the season, and I think he's going to be once again a championship contender again. So that's that. Overall, the race was fantastic in my opinion. It was it was almost it was this near perfection if it wasn't for the last lap caution. Now I have no problem with NASCAR throwing the caution. They had to. Also, Cindric basically came back up across the track. If they were both sliding on the grass out of the way, I think they would have kept it green. But NASCAR didn't have a choice. They had to do it, which was the right call. But man, This was a near perfect 500, and oh, if it wasn't if these drivers would just keep their car straight for one lap, this could have been one of the best 500s in my opinion. I mean, man, I just wish they would stop wrecking on the last lap. Get a green flag finish in for once. I mean, they were able to do this three wide most of the race, and they can't do that for one lap. Like, are you kidding me? But yeah, that's really the only complaint I have about this race, to be honest, was that last lap. Not NASCAR's fault or anything. It's just I just wish these drivers would stop wrecking on the last lap. But other than that, let's see. Corey LaJoy, top five, great run for him. I mean, my bold prediction almost came true of this race with him in the top five. If it went green, maybe it would come true, but I guess we'll never know now. My bold prediction did come true, but we still got Atlanta this weekend and more super speedways after that. So my bold prediction can still come true. Both Legacy Motor Club cars, Nemechek and Jones, top 10, which that is the first time that Legacy Motor Club have both cars in the top 10 ever since, I guess, they created the Legacy Motor Club brand. So that's a good start for them after what was a horrible season from the last season. Noah Gragson, which this is his first top 10 of his Cup career. Um, so great start for Noah Gragson. Um, Kyle Busch 12th, which um, this race was a roller coaster. He was at the front. Then he had a penalty. Then he was at the front again. But we almost fell off. And then he came back to the front again. And then he was at the very back, avoided the big wreck, thank goodness, but didn't show up at the last restart. So this was a roller coaster for me. His pit crew did absolutely nothing for him this race, other than cost him track position every pit stop, it seems like. And I told you, Jimmy. I told you, Jimmy. With all these there was all these bets going on. Oh, Cowboys, he has the best odds. He has the best odds to win the 500. I'm like, will you stop doing that? Or jinx. This is the ultimate jinx here. And what do you know? How did that work out? So, yep. I guess the only bright spot is he brought the car home in one piece. That's all I can really say. um, let's see. Let's see. Is there anyone else? I guess Jimmy Johnson. It is unfortunate that he got caught up in like lap six and wasn't the same after that. So that was unfortunate. Besides that, yeah, I think that's it. Overall, what an amazing race! Amazing way to start the season. It's just unfortunate that they could not keep their car straight for one lap, the last lap. So other than that, near perfect race in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely may or may not have contributed to all of the Kyle Busch hype there around with him having the best odds. So sorry that I contributed to the jinx. I apologize for it. But yeah, I think Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott were trying to make that third lane work on that final restart, and I don't think anybody went with either of them, and they both just kind of dropped to the back, which is why they unfortunately finished just outside the top 10. But let us quickly rate the race and do our paint scheme of the race, our new segment for this season. So for me, I think I'm gonna rate this race. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I kind of already explained all my reasoning earlier, and to add to Matthew's point, it would have been nice if they could have tried to make it back around and gotten a good finish. It would be nice to have a photo finish in the Daytona 500. Haven't had one of those in quite a long time, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And then for my paint scheme of the race, Matthew already knows that I love this car a lot. I talk about it a lot. And I think it's finally in iRacing, so I need to look at it and maybe run it a few times. But it's going to be Daniel Hemrick's Circle car. I love the blue and the white, and then the different fruit splattered across the car as well. Absolutely love that paint scheme. One of my favorites. Glad I got to run in the Daytona 500. So that's my paint scheme of the race. So Matthew, what are you going to rate the race? And then what was your favorite paint scheme from the Daytona 500?
Man, I'm shaking my head. You're rain. That's. I'm sorry. That is absolutely ridiculous. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, all near just this close to perfection. If it wasn't for that last lap caution that made the ending absolutely sour. But other than that, this race was fantastic. I loved every moment of it. Side by side racing pretty much the whole time. Three wide, strategy call, different strategy calls. It had a little bit of everything in it, so I gotta give it a 9 out of 10. And as for the paint scheme of the race, this one is tough because a lot of these paint schemes are going to be run most of the year. So this is basically we're ranking primary paint schemes here. There's not really a lot of different sponsors here, but in my opinion, I gotta go with Alex Bowman's Ally scheme. And we already saw it at the Coliseum, I know, but seeing it again at the 500, oh man, that paint scheme is amazing. It's just amazing. That is. Whew. It gives me South Beach vibes. It gives me vibes of when he ran the Nashville paint schemes, like all at one, all combined together. So, I mean, amazing paint scheme, and I'm glad he's running it most of the year. So, that is my paint scheme of the race.
Yeah, I was gonna rate. I was thinking about rating the race even worse than what I did, but I was like, I'm not gonna try to get in a big debate and argument with Matthew right now. It's 10:30 at night when we're recording this. I'm not awake enough to go through a full on debate about the rating this race, so I went with a 7, just to save
Ladies
both
and
of us a little bit of
gentlemen,
a
this
hassle.
dude was sleeping like half the race. he probably watched the first half and fell asleep the second.
And then for your paint scheme, I'm surprised you didn't go with William Byron's because I know that as soon as that one came out, you're like, ooh, that's a really nice one. But Alex Bowman, that's a nice one too.
Eh, I'm gonna be honest. That paint scheme's kind of changed my mind a little bit. I'm sorry. I still like last year's. I still like the one he ran the past couple years. Then I don't know why they got rid of it. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but for me, I loved it. I thought it was the modern Rainbow Warrior take. I get, in my opinion. But it's not bad. But my opinion has changed on that.
Yeah, and then the only real there were a few drivers that had like different paint schemes, but I like what Tyler Reddick and them did with the Monster Energy car. They made it a little bit different. They rebranded it, and it was like a black and yellow car. That one looked really good. But yeah, next week is Atlanta. Back to back super speedway races for the first time, I think, in NASCAR history, probably. So that's going to be interesting for sure. Matthew, do you have any quick comments either about that or about anything else? We'll go ahead and finish this video up.
Yes, I do. The truck race. What a that was a disaster. Goodness gracious. It literally is like an iRacing C fixed race here. Like I saw something, it was like over half the laps were caution laps. Like, are you kidding me? Oh man. I mean the last two truck races have been a disaster to watch. I mean, if you love if you only watch NASCAR because you like the wrecks and all, then Daytona is probably the best race you ever watched. But for people that want to see racing, that was not it. Um, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do with that series. They gotta figure something out because that series is turning to ARCA real quick. It's not up there with ARCA's stupidity, but it's getting closer by the race. It seems like, in my opinion, I think NASCAR officials need to be more strict on these drivers. Like, I really hate to use the F1 way where they're so ticky tacky with every single call. Like, oh, he made contact. That's a time penalty. I hate to do that, but these drivers are not getting the message, apparently, of how to race properly. Um, I just think the officials need to be more strict. You know, if they wreck someone, even if it was an accident, you gotta penalize them so they learn, so they can realize, hey, maybe I should have been more cautious because they're not getting the message. So I think we need to just start penalizing these drivers every single wreck they cause so they get the point. And then when they finally understanding the race is more clean, then you can get rid of that entirely. But for now, be more strict with the penalties, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if people thought the truck race was bad, whoo they should have just stuck around for the ARCA race because that was even worse. Like, I got home from work and the ARCA race was still on, and I got home around 12:30. I don't think that race ended till like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And my gosh, that was even worse. That was ridiculous. But
You
yeah, like you
know,
said, go ahead.
you know, I feel like these trends have started going up ever since NASCAR decided, hey, let's just make sure the Cub drivers don't get in these lower series anymore, aka the Kyle Busch rule. Maybe if we had more Cub drivers in the lower series like we used to back in the 2000s, we wouldn't be having these situations. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Because if one of those guys did that to Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick or Brad Keselowski, whew, they're never going to forget that. So, or they'll absolutely regret that. So, I'm just saying, if they didn't put the Kyle Busch rule on, maybe this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, that is a good point, and I think they should revise it to where they could run, I don't know, 10, 15 races a year or something like that instead of just five. Five, I think, is a little too small for them. But yeah,
Well,
maybe.
plus, they'll probably get more fans in the stands with the lower series if you let the Cup drivers in. Because, like, if Chase Elliott was in the truck race for, let's just say, 12 races, and those 12 races would be packing. If Kyle Busch was doing the whole truck schedule basically, which I'm sure he would if it was the old rules, the fans would be packing in. So I mean, best of both worlds, I'll say.
Yeah, I think NASCAR should definitely take a look at that and maybe consider revising it in the near future. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Daytona 500 review edition. Like I said earlier, Atlanta is going to be next week, so we'll have a review for that race out sometime early next week. Maybe go over some off-track news if anything comes out over the next few days. But thank you guys again for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys in the next one.